And we are up. Our Town Podcast, episode number 13.
Lucky 13.
25% of the year, and it is lucky. I'm lucky in that Tim Knox,
Wow.
owner, broker, Revolved Realty, sits before me.
Yeah.
How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good.
Yeah. Appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Happy to do it. This is right up my alley, as you know. So.
How many did you have to think about it, whether or not you wanted to come on the program?
Oh, no. I saw the word podcast and invitation and went, okay, I'm in. So, of course, the fact that it was you was very helpful. So.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, as we talked a little bit when you came in, you're like, hey, I checked out some of your episodes. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I appreciate that. You get to a point where you're not sure. You know, I have a couple friends who watch.
Right.
But typically when you have something, it starts out where a lot of your friends and family might check it out for an episode or two, mm-hmm. and then they lose interest. Mm-hmm. So then it's interesting when you hold on to, okay, who are your core fans?
Right.
Those that truly are like hanging on every episode. But have you had a favorite episode that I've done so far?
You know, I really like the one where, was it Tori? Tori flipped the tables on you and interviewed you, because I always find it interesting where these hosts came from and their background and that sort of. So I like that one. I like the T-shirt too, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me talk about this a little bit real quick. Mantech, the company I work for, we just had a ribbon cutting Monday.
Okay.
And as a part of our big weekend, well, the day before on Sunday, we sponsored the Trash Pandas game. It was one of 3 military appreciation games they're doing this year, and the package included 2,000 of these shirts to the first 2,000 fans. Actually, it was on TV for a half an inning with Josh Carey. Got interviewed, which was kind of fun. Mm-hmm. We had a suite, so we had a lot of our executives in town from Virginia to attend the game, and we did a charity. We did a donation of $15,000 to Still Serving Veterans. Cool. And we did, the first pitch and things like that. So shout out to Panda Nation. Yeah. I'm actually going to go to the game later tonight and check that out. So
good deal.
Yeah, thanks. So you're born and raised in Madison.
I was born and raised in Madison. I'm one of the few natives left, I think.
You don't have too strong of an Alabama accent.
It will come back. Like when my wife could always tell when I was on the phone to my mother. Mm-hmm. Because they would, hey, Mama, how y'all? What we having for supper, Mama?
You just revert back?
I revert back to the best Forrest Gump you've ever heard in your life. But yeah, I worked for a long time to lose it because I was in radio when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And, they didn't want that twangy accent. So, I've worked hard to lose it, but I can fall right back into it.
So you were in radio in Alabama, in Madison?
I was, yeah. My first job still in high school was in radio, and this was back dark ages, AM. Mm-hmm. FM was just starting, and if you remember the show WKRP in Cincinnati,
yeah, of course.
My dream when I was in high school was to be Johnny Fever.
Okay,
I literally had the hair. I mean, I had the glasses. I had the whole thing, and I got a part-time job at a little AM country station in Athens right after I got out of high school. And so, I spent about 4 years in radio here, which was 4 years really of starvation. Yeah. And then, the girl I was dating at the time said, you need to grow up, get a real job if you have any intentions on me at all. So I did.
So even on an Alabama radio station, they wanted you to get rid of the twang.
And what was really funny is it was a family-owned radio station, and the grandfather did the morning show, and he was probably in his 70s or 80s, and he'd been doing that morning show for decades. Pap Donovan was his name. Mm-hmm. And his son, Bob Donovan, did the afternoon shift. And they were both as Southern as they come, but the grandson of Pap, Bill Donovan, who took those stations and really turned them into something amazing. It was ZYP and those change of stations. Bill was very big on, you don't need the accent, lose it. Because I was 17, my voice was a little higher and just had that drawl, and so I worked hard to get rid of it.
But how did you even realize you had the drawl? I mean, that's just the way you spoke, right? That's what you knew.
Well, the Southern dialect or the Southern accent is born out of laziness because we're very lazy. It's hot here, and so it just, you just kind of fall into it and you talk like this. And, I was born and raised right here in Madison. And so Bill, he had gone to Alabama to study broadcasting. He had this incredibly deep voice. And he was always telling me, you got to listen to what you're saying, think before you say it, get rid of the accent. And so that's how it worked.
Who were your radio idols then? So WKRP, that was that. But as far as national radio, were you a Stern guy?
Back then there was no Stern because this was 78, 79. There might have been a Stern, but he certainly wasn't here.
Right.
Most of our radio, like Ralph Emery out in Nashville, they were a really big influence up there. But you really didn't get national radio guys. You got Casey Kasem on Saturday with the Countdown. You might have Rick Dees.
Yep, Rick Dees.
But there really were no idols per se, other than Dr. Johnny Fever.
Okay,
he was the best fellow babies.
No. We're going to talk a lot about Revolved Realty, of course, and what you're doing now. And actually, if I switch over to, I used your green color set. I think I actually almost got your exact RGB color.
You're really close. Yeah.
I had to use one of those tools where you go to your website and you kind of hover and it'll approximate, and I tried to approximate that. But one thing that you had mentioned in some of the Q&A I did in advance just to learn a little bit about you was... the kind of the entrepreneurial spirit. So tell me about some of the businesses you said you had as a child.
Well, it kind of goes back to being poor. And, the family that I came from, we were poor. We were dirt poor. We always called it the off-white trash. We were poorer than the white trash. And what's really funny, though, is when you don't have money, you will do whatever you need to do it. So when I was a kid, we would cut grass. We lived kind of out in the country. We would go up and down County Line Road looking for Coke bottles we could take back and get a nickel for.
Right.
And so I was always doing that sort of thing. And it just kind of started early. What's really interesting, I think, is out of my family, again, just all of us were dirt poor. There's probably 5 or 6 of us that became really successful entrepreneurs just for the fact that we really didn't have much option. In my house, the word college was never mentioned. It was not an option. In my family, you graduated high school if you could. Not a big deal if you didn't. And you went and found the best job that you could find, and you literally hung on to it for dear life. And so that was kind of the career path that I was on. My first job was, I was 13, 14. It was sweeping up in an auto body shop. And again, there was no allowance. There was no money coming from the family. So I had to go generate my own. And I think that's what set off the entrepreneurial spirit. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I worked for Boeing for a number of years early on. I could draw. That was my saving grace, as I'd been, blessed with the ability to draw. When I was a kid, I would draw my own comic books. Right. And could pretty much draw anything. And so when I decided to get out of radio, this was in 81, 82, the girl that I was dating, who would later become my first wife, her dad worked at Boeing as a graphic illustrator. And so because of my ability to draw, he got me a job at Boeing. That was my first real job. And this was before computers. I mean, everything was literally drawn with pen and ink on the board. And so I did that for a number of years. And my first business was a graphic design business that was born out of that. And so that's kind of how I got my start. I started, we called it digital graffiti. We were, right place, right time. We did a lot of government work, a lot of flow charts. Well, then the internet started to come around. And the internet back then, websites were really not much different than PowerPoint slides. Right. So we morphed from a graphic design company into a website design company. And we were the very first website design company in North Alabama. And again, right place, right time. We got a ton of work. And we were working for the Army, NASA, UAH, you name it. We really were doing everybody's web stuff. And then that morphed into more of a software company when like e-commerce and that sort of thing came around. And did that for a number of years, got tired of it, decided to shut it down and do something else. And gosh, my next business, I went in the retail gun business for some reason.
Real quick, though,
Yeah.
what tired you of that?
Just the repetition of it. You know, it's really funny when you do something as a hobby. For example, I was always drawing. I would draw pictures, you know, all this sort. When you do it for a living, 8 hours a day, it really it kills the fun, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the business was changing a lot. One of the big things was when we were doing custom software, we were doing really well. Well, then there started coming all these little, you know, do-it-yourself e-commerce kits, and this Amazon started coming around. So a lot of the things that we were getting paid to do custom software for just disappeared.
Right.
And so it was a good time, you know, to just do something else. And you know, my wife will tell you my attention span usually lasts a couple of years. This is we're going 5 years in Revolve, so you know, hopefully I'll continue to enjoy it.
You know, I had that sense of, you know, sometimes you can, I just inferred, this is a guy that's going to want to reinvent himself and we'll get into some other things you mentioned to me as well that I think are fascinating, and I think you can get bored in doing things. I think you could get bored being a doctor. If you're an internal medicine doctor and it's just, you see, 90 out of 100 patients have a cold or an upper respiratory infection, at some point, you're like, okay, this is kind of repetitious, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, what's funny is everybody I know, and you see this a lot, for example, with actors, you know, really successful actors want to go be singers or they want to go write books. It seems like regardless of, you know, if you're working for Mantech, you like doing this. So
why not, right?
And so to me, it's always been a thing of, you know, if you're doing it for work, it's one thing. But if you can do it for fun, then it keeps my attention. But yeah, when things stop being fun, I stop doing them.
You know, is because in the answers you provided to me on some of the questions you had mentioned let's now transition to the gun shop, but you had said you got out because you got bored. So that was kind of my curiosity. Were those other things? And you just kind of answered it. Yeah, kind of got bored, and so I did that. Yeah. So now let's pick up there and talk me through that. And for 3 years you did it.
And here's the backstory on that. I had an engineer that worked in my software company, David Purvis. David, literally, he was a gun fanatic. And not just in the fact that he liked to shoot them and collect them. He knew everything there was to know about guns. Remember Cheers?
Yeah.
You remember Cliff Lavin, the postman who thought he knew everything?
Yeah.
David knew everything. Okay. And so just to break the monotony, every month, a couple times a month, we would go out to lunch and we would go to the gun range. And, you know, there was a local gun store here, and they're still here. They do a fine job. But, you know, I wasn't overly impressed with their customer service. And we were coming out of there one day, and I made the remark just offhand to David, you know, we could do this a lot better than these guys. Well, that was on a Friday. On Monday, David comes into my office and goes, "Were you serious?" And I'm about what? And that's literally how we ended up going in the gun business. It was about the time we were shutting down the software company. I was looking for something to do. I knew I wanted to start another business. And back then, this was 15 years ago. There weren't a lot of gun stores here. There was just one, Larry's. He is and remains the 800-pound gorilla. Okay. And, I mean, the guy I can't say anything bad about him other than I didn't care for his customer service. So we opened a gun store in Madison Guns, and it was immediately, again, right place, right time. It was right after Obama got in office. Okay. And everybody was convinced that the government was going to come take their guns. And, of course, we didn't tell them any different. And so, so we had the store in Madison for a couple of years, and we opened one on South Parkway. And, you know, retail is a tough business. Absolutely. That is a business I will never go back into. It was fun. My big thing, I'm a startup guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love going into just a vanilla box of a building and building it out and creating something. And that was the most joy that I had out of that business. But it was a good business, and then we ran for about 3 years, and then we had some business things go south with the South Huntsville store, so we were going to close it. And about that time was when the tornadoes came through here, and we literally were without power for 2 weeks, some of us, and so the store was shut down.
That was like 2011.
2011, yeah. And so I took it as a sign that God was telling me to get out of the gun business. And so we never reopened. I sold off all the inventory and just shut it down.
So did you grow up with, hunting or
No.
just shooting or anything?
Nope.
No.
Nope. I am the most backward redneck you'll ever meet. My dad was not a guy that would take you out and teach you to do things.
So you saw it as a business perspective.
Totally a business.
The 800-pound gorilla doesn't offer customer service. I have an in
Right.
to this market,
Yeah.
and if we can provide that to customers, we may have a way.
It was a business based on what I saw as a hole in the market, not on something that I like. When I opened those gun stores, I think I had 2 pistols somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Today, I have 2 pistols somewhere. Right. And it's really funny because a lot of people still come up to me and go, hey, do you have any guns left over from this? Like they expect me to stockpile them. But yeah, it was, to me, the gun business, it was just another business. It's just like real estate. It's just another business, just a different product.
Right.
So, the fundamentals are pretty much the same.
So now, if you notice on your screen, I have on the bottom left, I'm actually rolling through several of your the images that come from the YouTube videos you've done.
Wow, you dug deep.
Yeah, I just pulled what I could in slideshow format. Mm-hmm. But so I think Revolved, that name comes from basically your family.
No. Actually, the way that I got in real estate. After I closed the gun stores, I did a lot of software consulting. I've always been a writer, so I did a lot of writing, and I was looking for something to do. And my daughter, Chelsea, who'd been in real estate for years, just has an amazing talent for it. She flipped her first house in high school.
Okay.
And then went to college at Alabama, flipped houses there, came back here, started a flipping business, a design business. She had a real estate license. And, one day she just said, well, my wife was telling me, you need to get a job or a hobby. You need to get out of the house. And Chelsea said, well, Dad, why don't you get your real estate license and we'll start a real estate company? And I'm like, okay, that sounds good.
Right.
Let's do it. And that's literally what we did. I put probably about 4 or 5 months worth of research into it because I didn't know anything about real estate. I bought a lot of houses, but never been on the other side of the table. And so it's one of I think a good entrepreneur does their research because I didn't want to start a business just blindly. And long answer to a short question. I got my real estate license. Right after I got my license, I met a guy who had started Revolved Realty in Athens.
Okay.
And he had started it as it was a flat fee real estate company doing discounts. It was just him and a couple of realtors. He actually saw the videos that I was doing. I was at Keller Williams for about 3 months. And I did videos all the time, just like I do now in real estate. And he had seen my videos and just called me up out of the blue and said, hey, let's get together and talk about maybe being partners. Not a fan of partners, although my daughter is my partner now. We get along great. Sat down with him, and his idea was the flat fee. Basically, it's a discount on the listing side. And he was deep discounting to the point of not making any money. So what ended up happening was I bought the name and the company from him and just took it over. So, and it's really funny because I'm like, what the hell is Revolved? Is that... it stood for Real Estate Evolved.
Okay.
And he thought that was just the best name for a real estate company on the planet. And so he shortened it to Revolved. And I just, I'm a marketer, so I really went to work branding it, and it just stuck. And even today, people will go, is that Revolver? Because you're in the gun business? I'm like, no, it's completely unrelated.
So that brings me to a question I've always wanted to ask a real estate agent that I don't know. I just haven't.
Yeah.
But it seems, I know a lot of fantastic agents, right, that have been working for Remax or Keller Williams for 20 or 30 years. And it made you wonder, why aren't there more small, upstart, firms? Now, even though you just said, like, rather than completely starting at ground zero and you had to get the name and you kind of bought an existing, can you talk to me first about what is that barrier? Is it just cost? To
open
for
up
someone
a brokerage?
So let's say there's someone who's been with Remax 30 years, and for whatever reason, what keeps them from, you know what, I can do this on my own.
Yeah, beats the hell out of me.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. It's just like any other business. You have entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And, realtors are not employees. They're independent contractors.
Sure.
But they get comfortable, doing their thing. Not everybody wants to be a broker. I mean, I've got 82 agents. And I have other brokers call me going, are you crazy? Why do you need, because it is a lot of responsibility. But with me, there was never a choice because I knew we were going to start this as a business. But a lot of realtors, they get very comfortable just doing what they're doing. All they have to do is really deal with their clients, and the brokerage will do everything else. There are various reasons why agents get married to a brokerage and never leave. Name recognition. More than anything, it's a relationship business. Most of the agents, if they don't like their buddies and their broker, they'll go somewhere else.
Okay.
And they do that. The average real estate agent switches about every 18 to 24 months. But then you do have some, and I know them, who have been Keller Remax agents for decades and would not even think about doing anything else. But it's also very hard to start a boutique brokerage.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. The reason I did all the research was I knew I was going to be going up against the Kellers and the Remaxes and the Caldwells and the Matts and the Amandas. And, that's the reason why we did the flat fee initially. Was back then, 4 years ago, nobody was doing discounts. And so we started that business as a flat fee brokerage, and we just took off because we were saving the seller money, and that's what was the big appeal.
Because typically it's at least 6%.
Yeah, the traditional transition is 6%, with 3% going to the listing agent, whoever sticks the sign in the yard, 3% going to whoever brings the buyer.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's changed dramatically. Now everybody's doing discounts now. And it's really not really a USP for us anymore because now everybody is doing discounts. But what we did was we changed the company completely about a year ago. When we started Revolved, it was me, Chelsea, and to be a broker, you've got to have 2 years in the business, which I didn't have, so I hired a broker.
Okay.
I owned the company. He was the broker. I was an agent. And for about 3 years, we did really well. But it was me, Chelsea, and about 8-9 other agents. We were very small. Most of those agents I met in real estate school, and they just kind of followed me where we went. And, it was November, December, year before last, we kind of looked at the business and where we were. And it's one of the things I do as an old entrepreneur. I'm always doing autopsies on my business.
Right.
Even if it's healthy, I want to know what's going on. And I realized that we had done a really good book of business. We had grown. We were a great little boutique brokerage. We were holding our own. But, the way that I judge a business is if the business owner can go to the beach for a week and come back and the business is still going, that's a business.
Yeah.
In our case, if I had walked outside and got hit by a truck, Revolved Realty would go away. Because my daughter, Chelsea, she has no desire to run things. And so we changed our business model. Again, I did a lot of research. There was a business model called broker services, where basically it's a traditional real estate company in every sense of the word, except the way agents are compensated.
Okay.
And so what we did was we had done like a 70-30 split, meaning that when an agent brought in a closing check, the brokerage took 30%, the agent took 70%.
Okay.
It's pretty much standard in the business. What we did was we changed the model where our payment isn't based on commission, it's based on the price of the house. And rather than doing a commission split, they just pay a transaction fee. They walk away with about 96% of their commission.
Wow.
And so we decided to do that because I knew for me to grow this business, I had to step back because I was spending 60, 70 hours a week as an agent. And if I was going to grow the business, I had to cut back on that. And so that's why we came up with this new model, because it would let me recruit agents. And so we debuted that. It was a year ago, January. There were 10 of us. Now, a year and a half later, I think we're about to onboard number 85.
Amazing.
So we've grown considerably, but the model is completely different. You know, most retail brokerages make their money off of commission splits. We get, you know, we charge $99 a month, and we give them everything they need, and then we just do a transaction fee. And it just kind of, I've always been a bull in a china shop. I really like to shake things up, and boy, have we.
Yeah, that's remarkable. You know, and a lot of times when I think about changing a business model, I think so much more just on the transaction of buyer and seller versus like, wait a minute, you got to attract agents.
Well,
you got to want people to come work for Revolved.
Yeah. Well, see, my customer, as the broker of Revolved, my customers are not the buyers and sellers. My clients are my agents.
Yeah.
And the buyers and sellers are their customers. So my job at Revolved is to work with my agents to grow their business.
Right.
And, you know, we take on a lot of the responsibility, because my background being in marketing, you know, we promote our agents. We promote all of their listings. We literally do everything for an agent except get out of bed and go to work. And that model is really different, and it really appeals to a lot of agents, because, you know, a lot of real estate agents are just not good at marketing. They're not good at social media. They're not good at video. And if you're not doing video in this business, you are not going to be in this business very long.
Let's talk about marketing. Did you change the logo and or the color set on your logo for Revolved?
We kept the colors because I like the green.
So it's always been the green.
It's always been the green. You know, Keller's red, Coldwell's blue, you know, Remax is red, white, and blue. So I really, one of the things that appealed to me when I first saw the logo that this guy did was I liked the green.
Yeah.
But back then, the logo, it was a circle, and it had a backwards R and an E, and I'm just like, what does that mean? And so, yeah, we actually used it for a couple of years, but we've redesigned the logo now. This is actually the old logo.
Yeah.
You see
I was noticing it's backward.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we did a rebrand, a redesign last year, but we kept the colors because I've gone out of my way to really brand that green into a lot of brains. And it's really, you know, because we have a, you know, go green, have a green day. You know, there's all kinds of marketing things you can use with green. So
here, let's bring up your website real quick.
Okay.
Let me switch screens here. There we go.
There it is. That's the new logo there.
And do you guys do all this in-house? Do you do your own website design?
We don't. We actually have a website service that does this. I want to say that we got the logo done on Fiverr for like $20.
I just did the same thing.
Yeah.
I had my website done through Fiverr. I think I used Hatchwise for my logo.
Okay.
But isn't that great? Like the whole crowdsourcing type
Oh yeah,
model?
I love it. Yep, sure do.
Anything you want me to or you'd like to highlight on your webpage?
Well,
we're here,
our website, it kind of goes back to all the content that we do. You know, if you go under About Us, you'll see agents, but we put a lot of video blogging content there about buying and selling. We do a lot of content for the public, and so that's one of the things I think that makes us a little different. Is the amount of video and blogging and that sort of thing that we do. So website gets a lot of traffic because of that. We rank really high on Google.
And your agents are alphabetized here by last name all the way through?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have all shapes, sizes, colors, you name it, we got them. So
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the training, I guess, you said you had no experience.
Right.
So you're not necessarily looking for anyone else to have experience.
Yeah.
True?
True.
What is it do you sit down and interview every potential agent?
I do. Yeah. And that was one of the things that, you know, when we switched this business model to attract agents, we knew we would attract a lot of newbies.
Right.
And the thing about it is real estate school does not teach you how to be a realtor. Real estate school teaches you how to pass a test and make a C.
Right.
That's the bar to
Right.
getting in this business. So we knew that we needed to really up the game on training. And again, part of my background had been in training. I did entrepreneurial training for Chamber of Commerce for years and years and years. So it was real easy for me to create these training curriculums. Mm-hmm. And so everything is on video. The agents can, we have training in-house. We do Zoom training, but again, we video everything. And so, one of the big things that I had to do before we flipped the switch and started recruiting heavily was build this training library. And so we got a program, we call it our fast track program. I think it's 13 videos that take you from the day you get your license to the day you close your first deal. Then we've got a lot of videos just on sales and marketing and really relationship building, because I don't believe in salesy sales. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in hard pressure. I don't believe in scripts like a lot of companies do. I think people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. So we work a lot about training on relationship building, that sort of thing. And then we have the technical training. We train about every contract that we use, all of the software systems, that sort of thing. So, that's one of the reasons why we attract a lot of newbies, is because our training, I would put our training against anybody. And it's working. I see agents come to work, brand new agents just got their license, and within a month or two, they're selling houses. And again, it's not me. It's just kind of,
right.
The training that we put together just works really, really well.
And what are some of those core areas that they didn't get in getting their license, right? Like you said, what are some of those core things you focus on that no matter what, if you're going to be a Revolved agent, you have to succeed at these 2, 3, 4 things?
Yeah. Well, right out of the gate, and a lot of people don't realize this when they go into real estate, but it's a sales business.
Right.
You have to make cold calls. You have to call people on the phone. You have to knock on doors. You have to do this. And it's really a comfort level, thing. And a lot of people are not. So we teach that sort of thing. We teach how to make the phone calls, what to say. Again, we don't do the heavy scripting. Our phone calls, if you're on the phone more than 2 minutes, you're talking too much.
Right.
We do a lot of training, what to do face-to-face when you get with a client.
Okay.
A lot of it gears towards social media, because I literally built this company on Facebook. Mm-hmm. From day one, I was doing videos. I was doing tons of photographs. I was doing, lots of posting. And that's one of the best things that I can teach my agents to do is use video, do video.
Were you the first realtor in Madison really doing that?
I think I was probably the first realtor in Huntsville, Madison, or all over the place. A lot of them are doing it now, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. But in this business, this is a people business. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's no loyalty. If you look at the stats from the National Association of Realtors, they'll tell you that like 90% of consumers do not use the same agent more than once.
Really?
And it's not that they were dissatisfied. It's just that their attention span doesn't allow it. They'll do business with whoever's in front of them at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's super important for agents to always be in front. We post something. I'm that obnoxious Facebook guy. I'll post something 5, 6, 7 times a day.
Yeah.
I post 3 to 4 videos a week, because I want to be that guy. When someone thinks about selling their house, they're going to pop up on Facebook and go, well, this guy seems to know what he's doing.
I like how all your videos start with, hey, this is your old buddy Tim.
That is my catchphrase. People make fun of it now, but just started out that way.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily mean to start every episode with "and we are up," but it's just you kind of have
you just fall into
you have something habitual, right? Mm-hmm. It used to be "and we are live" because I used to do live stuff,
right?
Or you're looking live at whatever, which I may have stole from Brent Musburger. So let's talk now about your channel. Okay. It's basically if you're relocating to Huntsville, it's kind of the focus.
Moving to Huntsville is
moving
the
to
focus,
Huntsville. Yeah. And I like it because you'll feature what can you afford for $255? Mm-hmm. What can if you want to spend $1.7 million, this is what you're going to get.
Right.
I guess I was thinking about this the other day. Is it just kind of situational and what's current to what comes to what you're going to produce content on, or do you have a list of, okay, I'm gonna go through these 100 things this year, and you kind of pick through the list? Like, talk me a little bit through the decision process you make on what you want to make a video about.
Yeah, it really depends on the day. The easiest thing I do are house tours.
Yeah.
Let me back up. The reason we started the YouTube channel is because we have such a big relocation business.
Yeah.
Because all of these people are moving to Huntsville.
Me included.
You included. And so, I had the YouTube channel for 3 years. I'd never done anything with it. I really just used it to store videos because I was focusing more on Facebook. And so I was talking to a friend of mine. His name's Jeff Jones. Jeff is in Mobile. And Jeff is just knocking it out of the park. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've only been doing this a couple of years. And he had started a YouTube channel dedicated to moving to Mobile. And so I rebranded my YouTube channel, switched from doing all buyer and seller advice. 3 things you can do to improve your curb appeal. 4 things you can do to get more money for your house. I started focusing on relocating to the area and just kind of highlighting Huntsville, Madison, Decatur, Athens, various neighborhoods, attractions, that sort of thing. And then immediately started getting a response because you have to remember YouTube is owned by Google.
Mm-hmm.
Google's the number 1 search engine. YouTube is number 2.
Right.
If you search anything on Google, they're going to pull up videos. And so, whatever is at the top of my brain, like if I can go out and do a home tour, or people love our flip videos. I do a lot of before and after. I did one the other day. It was just the nastiest house. And I love it. I'll buy a nasty house just to do a video. I really will. But we do a lot of before and afters. But the thing that really gets a lot of attention is every month I'll do like a market update. But then again, what do you get for $350,000 in Madison?
Mm-hmm.
What do you get for $1.7 million in Newmark? That sort of thing. But if I see something on the news, like interest rates going up, we did just an off the top of my head video on that's getting a lot of attention. So it just really depends. What I try to do is think about, okay, if I'm thinking about moving to Huntsville, Alabama, what do I want to know about?
Yeah.
And I also get a lot of suggestions off the channel. I mean, there's only probably, 750 followers on that channel, but the ones that are there are very active.
Mm-hmm.
And they comment on just about every video, and they give me a lot of ideas as well. So it's really just trying to think, okay, if I was moving here, what would I want to know about?
Do you think that you mentioned earlier how people could not be loyal, right?
Yeah.
That you may have sold them a house and it might have been an excellent experience, and then 6 years from now they choose another agent,
Right?
Because they forgot or
whatever.
Do you feel like it's one thing to just buy advertising on a billboard, right? A lot of real estate agents do.
A lot of them do. One in particular.
It's one, yep. And it's one thing to whatever a yard sign or something, or you paid money and therefore your the advertisements go out. It's a whole nother, and especially if you look at your YouTube channel and do you know how the number of videos that are on there now? I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
I think all in, I probably have in the real estate channel probably a couple of hundred.
Okay.
I've also got a channel. I was a writer for many years and I did consulting there. I've got a YouTube channel, and I haven't touched that channel in 10 years, and it still gets traffic. But from a real estate standpoint, I think we probably have a couple of hundred videos.
Yeah, so you're posting something every 2 or 3 days.
Every 2 or 3 days.
And that's effort, right? That's that's exactly, if you're going to be an agent, there's effort. It's hard work. It's not just easy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some sales that are a breeze, and then there's others that are just arduous. But
right.
I hope, do people seem to appreciate and give back to you? Like, you know what? That guy works his butt off. Mm-hmm. He's doing these videos left and right. He's giving us information that we could probably get from somewhere else. He's taking us inside the property, giving us all kinds of advice. I should probably give my business to him.
I probably get, a half dozen leads, and they're leads that are ready to come here and buy every week. Most of my business is coming from YouTube, because I don't compete with my agents.
Yeah.
If we get leads coming into the company, into the office, those go to the agents. So the only business I do right now is my YouTube leads.
Yeah.
And I also work with a number of investors here, or out of California, actually. But I will get In fact, I got one today, really long email from a lady. Her and her husband are in, I think, out of Chicago. They want to retire here. They're going to come in for a weekend, and I do this a lot. Every weekend now, I have somebody coming into town, and I just put them in the car and give them the tour, and usually it ends up in a deal.
Yeah.
So that's been the best generator of business for me personally. And of course, I tell my agents, you got to do these videos. You know, you may not do a YouTube channel like I do, but people on social media, Facebook in particular, Instagram, they want to watch video.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have seen surveys that said within the next 5 years, 90% of all content online will be video.
Yep.
Because people, you know, if they can look at a picture, they don't bother to read. But if they can watch a video, they'll do that. And so, you know, I say it all the time. If you are a realtor and you are not doing some kind of content, you are not going to be a realtor very long, unless you've been in it, you know, for decades and you've got a nice book of business built up. But a lot of new ones, that's what we really preach hard to new agents. And of course, they're all, oh, I could never do video. I'm uncomfortable.
Well, you're going to have to.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is what I tell them, and this really works. You know, I said, look, here's what I want you to do. Think of something that you can talk about for 1 minute. Pottery, flowers, coffee, some TV show. And I want you to take your phone and I want you to videotape you looking at your phone, just talking about that for 1 minute like you're telling a friend about it. I want you to do that video, and then I want you to delete it. Watch it, grimace, delete it. I want you to do that every day. Well, you're going to come to a point where you do a video and go, well, you know, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come to a point where you'll go, I'll show this one to Tim. And then you'll come to a point where you're doing videos all the time. It works like you wouldn't believe. That's the exercise I put them through. And I'm really proud to say, I mean, I probably have 15 or 20 agents that just do video regularly now.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
How, are you using drones? Is there a demand for aerial?
We use drones on higher priced properties. You know, if I, like, for example, I had a listing last year, it was a $2.2 million estate, and we had to drone it. I mean, because pictures on the ground weren't going to do it justice. But again, we just do that really for the higher end properties. You know, this market has been so crazy the past year. A lot of homes sell before we can even get the photographer out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of softening a little bit. But, you know, the photos and the video, every house that I list and every house that my agents list, I'll go do a video walkthrough. And it is a super informal video with me holding a stick, walking through, you know, here's the bedroom, here's the master bathroom. And people love that sort of thing. And I've literally sold, I couldn't tell you how many houses to buyers that are out of town. They don't see them until after they buy them and get here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that you just have to take care of that technology.
My wife came in November by herself and got this house that we're in. I had been down a couple times myself. I had seen Huntsville. I had told her, I think, you know, we had worked together on, we think we want to live in Madison. Contacted an agent. Unfortunately, we didn't know about Revolved at the time.
Didn't have the YouTube channel. Maybe.
I didn't have my podcast going where I was heavy into that. And we looked at 16 different things, and I felt really comfortable with the amount of video and pictures and stuff that we had access to, where I was like, yeah, just there's several we're interested in, and I trust you. And I felt like everything I saw once I was on the ground, it wasn't that different. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily have to be here in person.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easy to do now. I mean, I've sold houses to people in Germany, England, all over the country, who, you know, they look at the pictures, I go in and do a video, we do a FaceTime, and, you know, I have yet to have anyone disappointed when they actually come here and see the house. Yeah. But that's the big thing. I mean, our business is a visual medium business. You got to have pictures. You got to have videos, because you're going to have customers, again, from all over the country moving here. And so it's just and then, of course, you've got the videos that you do, you know, just for local folks, you know, on social. But, you know, here's the thing. Not every video has to be about real estate.
True.
You know, because it goes back to what I said earlier. People want to do business with people you know, the old adage is they want to do business with people they like, know, and trust. The truth is they want to do business with people they feel like they know and trust, right? And social media makes that connection. I mean, I do so much posting. I have people come up to me in restaurants and say, "Hey, how's that grandson? He's the cute." And I'm like, "Who are you?" And it's someone off of Facebook.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it is a business that lends itself to the visual medium. And I tell every realtor, not just mine, but every realtor I meet, you got to do video.
So these investors you mentioned from California, is that more for your flip business? Are they looking and they want to buy something and they hire you for that?
Yeah, they want various things. There are some investors that are looking in this market for rental property. Huntsville is right at the top of the list of best places to invest in the country. We get tons of attention. So I have investors that are looking for rental property, things they can fix up and rent, things they can fix up and flip. I have a lot of clients that do Airbnbs.
Yeah.
I even have clients that come here and buy new construction, and which is a brilliant thing to do because, let's say you're going to do a new construction. Let's say it's a $300,000 house where you can lock it down today for $300,000. 8 to 10 months when they build it and you close on it, you're going to pay $3. It's already worth $350 in this market.
Yeah.
So it's a great investor. But yeah, I got about 5 or 6 that I deal with myself. But I get a ton of investment inquiries coming off of YouTube because of the flip videos. So, and I just kind of farm those out to my agents. I can't work with everybody. It's just not fair to them.
How, let's talk about risk a little bit.
Sure.
How risky is the flip? I mean, as far as you got to do some research, but you also have to experience it, I guess. You're going to win some and lose some.
Yep.
Talk to me about the difference in risk going with flip versus just I'm starting my own real estate company.
Yeah. If you're doing a flip, you've got to put in the time and the research to figure this out. And this is, everybody watches HGTV.
Yeah.
They make flipping look so easy and so profitable. And a lot of people get into it and lose their shirt because they don't do their homework. Mm-hmm. They overpay for the house. That's one of the things about our market over the last year. We've been doing fewer flips because the math just doesn't work. We cannot buy the house cheap enough to put the money in to make money.
And the materials
have been just crazy. We have flips now that we're starting first ones of the year. But what happens is a lot of people will just go out, they'll find an old house, they've got it in their brain that they're going to be able to buy it and put money in it and sell it. But you've got to do that homework all along. Before we do or buy a flip, we'll go out, we'll walk it, we'll look at it. We know what to look for. Especially my daughter Chelsea is the genius in this business. It's not me. I'm just the guy that writes the checks and runs his mouth. She can walk through a house and tell you exactly what it's going to cost to get that house refurbished and sell for top dollar. And what's happened in this market is a lot of people are overpaying on the front end. In the flipping business, you make your money on the front end. It's all based on what you buy it for and what you have to put in it.
Yeah.
So the people that know what they're doing can make a really good living flipping in this market. But again, there's a lot of folks that just watch a TV show and think it's going to be easy, and they don't put in the time, and they get in there and, they open up walls and there's mold or there's electrical issues or, old plumbing issues, that sort of thing. I also have every house inspected before we clamp it down as well.
Sure.
I want to know every bad thing that's wrong with that house because that's going to tell me how much money it's going to cost to fix it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And now give me an idea of how the risk of, okay, you've gone through your life and your career, you've started real estate, flipping is an element of that. How does that compare to the risk or the stress, pressure you felt opening a gun shop or starting your software company or,
Yeah. Honestly, I handle pressure and stress really well. I don't get stressed out. I never have. I try to think things through. When I'm thinking about, for example, when we were looking at starting Revolved, I didn't know anything really about real estate. Chelsea was the expert.
Yeah.
I went out and did the research and I learned, and you weigh the risk. Okay. It's going to cost me X dollars and X time to start this gun business, graphics business, real estate company. All right. What are my risks? How long is it going to take me to start making money? And that's where a lot of entrepreneur wannabes, they will underestimate the time it takes to make money, and they overestimate the amount of money they're going to make.
Mm-hmm.
And they also don't have deep pockets. That was another big thing. When you're well financed, and you do your homework, you can calculate the risk. My thing was, okay, if we start this company and we don't sell any houses, what are we losing? Not much. Right. It wasn't like a big, like, for example, when I started a gun business, that's a couple of $100,000 you got to put in inventory.
Sure.
Real estate, not so much, but I always try to look at, okay, what are the hurdles?
Mm-hmm.
What are the risks? Well, the primary risk is you don't do any business and you lose all your money.
Yeah.
Okay. If that happens, are you going to survive? And this is one thing we always would ask when we were doing entrepreneurial training. Very first question was, let's say you start a business and you lose everything. What's that going to do to you? Are you going to be devastated? Are you going to be depressed for years? Are you going to be broke? Are you going to go bankrupt? Tell me the downside of this.
Right.
And then tell me the upside. If that happens, are you going to have the ability to dust off and move on? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, to me, even being a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur. You're building your own business.
Yeah.
But you have to look at those risks and what happens. How are you going to take it if that does happen? My thing, because I came from nothing, I have no fear ever. I never have of losing everything and starting over. Okay. Just another day. Here we go again.
Yeah.
There's that Southern accent right there.
Yeah.
But that's just my mindset. I mean, my dad used to say I was too dumb to quit. And I think that was the only compliment he ever gave me. But yeah, a lot of it, again, has to do with doing your research, doing your homework. What are the risks? If you're in retail, the risk is nobody's going to walk into your store to buy anything.
Right.
Or you're going to be closed down for 2 or 3 weeks because of tornadoes.
Sure.
Can you come back from that sort of thing? And I think you got to think about that going in, because if you don't and it happens, well, then that's a whole nother story.
Let's pivot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your parents. Talk to me a little bit about kind of what your dad and mom did as you grew up, and a little bit more about your siblings, and in particular, those you said that went on in successes and whatever they're successful in.
Yeah, my dad was a drunk.
Okay.
He wasn't an alcoholic. That would have forced him to go to meetings. He was a drunk.
Okay.
He never was around, and when he was around, he wasn't really around. So he had no effect on me at all, other than convince me not to be a drunk.
Okay.
Right? He was not a good dad. I'm the best dad on the planet. Call Guinness, they'll tell you. Right?
Okay.
And so with my dad, it was lessons learned not to do. I was really fortunate that my mom was great. Again, we were, my mom had her first baby when she was 13.
Wow.
Came from a dirt poor sharecropping family. She made it to the 7th grade, I think. But very strong-willed, loved her kids. And then the real saving grace with me is I have an older sister, and she was 13 years older than me. And she was the one that quit high school to go to work to support the family.
Wow.
Because the old man wasn't going to do it, right? And so she's the one, and I'm indebted to her today. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have had clothes.
Was this in Madison?
This is in Madison, yeah. We were born and raised. We lived right out, County Line Road.
Yeah.
If you go across Highway 72, about a half a mile down, there's an old house that sits up on the hill next to a barn. And that's where I grew up.
Wow.
Okay. When we moved in that house, it had no heat and air, had no running water. It was $50 a month. And I loved it, because
Sure.
we did things that kids these days don't do, like, climb a tree, go outside. If I told my kids to go climb a tree, they'd call DHR, But my sister, she was the one that really supported the family. We never wanted for anything. And so she's the one we really give credit to. But my mom and dad were married for 35 years and then divorced. And, my brothers and sisters will tell you they should have divorced years earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was, but the thing about it is, everybody, I tell these stories and they're like, well, bless your heart. And I'm like, no, I had a great childhood.
Yeah.
I have no bad childhood memories at all. I got no complaints, but it was because of my mom and my sister. But back then that was kind of the nature of the beast for a lot of men.
Yeah.
My dad came from a family. There were, I think, 8 brothers and 2 sisters. And out of those 8 brothers, 6 of them were alcoholics. And so it was just kind of
Where did he work?
When he worked, he was a shade tree mechanic. He would do electrical work, that sort of thing. He wasn't really trained at anything. So he really rarely had a job.
Yeah.
He was always out in his pickup truck beating the bushes trying to find something to do for beer money.
Yeah.
But again, I got no complaints.
Sure. Yeah.
None whatsoever. Just he made me what I am today. So I've got no complaints at all. But but our entire family, we're just poor folks. We I don't think any of us ever went to college. Some of us graduated high school, but we were very self-sufficient. And so as that, for example, like my younger brother, he has a dental lab that he's had for, 30 years, started with nothing on the side, starved for a little bit, and now he's doing really well. I've got relatives that are in retail. I've got relatives that, they buy and sell everything you can think of. But it was just one of those things where you don't go to college, you don't have a degree, you're going to either go work some menial job or you're going to starve. But, one of the best examples of that is I had an uncle, and right out of, I don't think he finished high school, but he got a job, like changing tires. And he did that for like 40 years. And he would tell you till the day he died, that was a good job. That was the thing. You grow up, you get you a good job.
Yeah.
There's that accent again. And that was kind of the mentality. Find a good job and hang on to it for dear life. And that just never fit with me.
Are your family still in Alabama?
Yeah, my mom and dad had passed. My brother and sister live right in downtown Madison. I've got cousins all over the place. So yeah.
What about the older sister?
She actually works with my brother.
Okay.
In the dental lab business. She's still in the house that she and my mom had together. And I see him a couple of times a month. We've never been one of those close families.
Yeah.
We enjoy each other.
Sure.
We love seeing each other. Do we want to go over there every Sunday? No.
Yeah.
Not by any stretch.
So dental lab is like kind of if you go in for a crown,
yeah,
they take the mold, they send it
teeth.
in,
Yep.
they make it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's a hot thing right now too with all the implants and stuff.
It is. In fact, he had been doing everything, I guess, by hand. And recently he had to upgrade to this. It's like a 3D printing system. It's like $40,000 that now he just plugs everything into, and the 3D printer actually makes the crowns and stuff that they were doing by hand. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, technology's great.
Let's do this. Let's. I got a couple. Let's do the quick 6.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen enough of the episodes, but I want to make sure we do that before we forget to.
Okay.
And then sometimes those will spawn additional questions, right?
Keyword being spawn there.
Yeah. Question number 5 is one of those that we'll have to provide some context when I get to that one.
Okay.
All right. If you get to name the next grandchild, what are you going to name? What would? And I don't know. You get to pick gender, boy or girl, but
that's a good question. I have to be careful here because, the grand boys. I've got Archer and I've got Warren.
Good names
and good strong names. But my daughter Chelsea and her husband Ammon, they just couldn't think of names. So my younger daughter Sierra, every day was sending Chelsea like 300 names, and Chelsea zeroed in on Archer, which we liked, Archer Ammon McKinney. Warren was a battle because, his name is Warren McKinney. And, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like an old man. Hey, Warren, where's Warren McKinney? But Chelsea was the mom and she got what she wanted. So, we've got the 2 boys. I think I'd like to have like a granddaughter, and I'm going to call her Bug regardless of her name.
Bug?
That's what I've called my youngest daughter. But so whatever they want to name them is fine because I nickname them. I never call him Archer or Warren. They're Buddy, And it's really confusing because I have a dog named Buddy. And when Archer and Warren are over at the house, I'm like, what's going on, Buddy? My dog's like, Did you call me?
Did you call me?
Yeah, who are these little humans? Get them out of here. So I would love to have a granddaughter. I would let them pick the name though.
Okay, so sticking with your grandchildren.
Sure.
Give me one thing. You may have already done this, but if not, let's say it's coming of age, more like when they're 11 or 12.
Sure.
What's the one thing you want to make sure you teach them that only a grandfather can teach?
Well, I don't know if it's only a grandfather, but I've always been very musical.
Okay.
I play a lot of instruments. Well, my daughters had no interest at all. My youngest daughter, Sierra, and I tell this story a lot, and she thinks it's funny. I used to sit around and play and sing with guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And Sierra was probably 2 years old. And she comes up to me one day while I'm playing, and she puts her hand on the guitar strings, and she goes, "Stop." She's 2, Troy. Stop. No more, Daddy.
In the name of God, stop.
Yeah. And so I'm like, it killed every creative bone in my body. So I've got like 8 guitars. I haven't picked a guitar up in years. Well, I'm bound and determined that these grandkids are going to be musical.
Okay.
I mean, he comes over. The first thing we do is we go up to the music room and let him beat up the guitars and have a good time. And, I would love for them to be musical. Their mom and dad's very musical. Ammon's a really good singer.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I hope that they get the love of music that I had. And then I hope they don't have some girl tell them to stop because I still remember that 26 years later.
Brutal honesty, right?
And she thinks it's funny. She doesn't want to hear about it.
So tell me about, I get that you weren't necessarily a gun enthusiast,
Mm-hmm.
but within your store, was there a memorable gun that you guys owned?
We had a guy come in and do a custom order one time. And by custom order, he wanted this, I don't remember, it was kind of an AR, but he wanted this scope and this laser and everything he added to it. It was about $6,000. And I'm like, who would spend $6,000 on a gun? Mm-hmm. And that was probably the most expensive gun we ever sold. But I mean, when it came in, it looked like something out of a Gerard Butler movie. It was a beautiful piece of hardware. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's the question where we got to provide some context.
Sure.
And then maybe after the quick 6, we can get into this. You did some stand-up comedy.
Boy, you did dig, didn't you?
You gave it to me.
Oh, what was I thinking?
But I also did do some digging, and I found at least a segment. It's kind of broken into different clips where you're doing a stand-up routine somewhere in a white shirt.
Yeah.
And you opened for Foxworthy, you opened for Ron White and Gallagher. Mm-hmm. Tell me, can you walk through your best joke, or the one that you felt like was your go-to, or the one that you rehearsed the most or delivered the best?
I probably can't talk about it because it was a little blue, but most of my humor was really Southern humor because I was inspired by Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah,
because he was the man
back
then. And when I did my little brief career as a comedian, it was really funny. I worked with Ron White in Nashville, and at the time this was, I don't know, 7-8 years before the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Mm-hmm. And it was a period where whenever I got tired of doing something, I'd go find some $5 an hour radio job because it was just a creative outlet. Mm-hmm. And so I was working at WTAK here doing the morning show. And then through that, I got involved with the comedy club, hosting comedy nights. And that led me into stand-up. And I just kind of had a knack for it. Because I was an old ham. It took off really well. But I remember working with Ron, and at the time, he was the funniest son of a bitch I ever met in my life. I mean, he was just, I was enwrapped with Ron White on and off stage.
Right.
I mean, he's just the nicest guy, but just incredibly funny. And it's one of the things with me is I don't laugh at jokes. I like pick them apart and criticize. I could not stop laughing at Ron. But at the time, he had been on the road for years and years and years, was really burnt out.
Okay.
And, he was literally thinking about retiring. And if he did, 5 years later or whatever, he wouldn't have gotten Blue Collar Comedy Tour. But he was like asking me about radio. How do you get one of these radio jobs? And I'm like, Ron, I make $5 an hour at the radio,
Yeah.
But it kind of goes back to one of the things where he had done it for so long. He literally was the funniest guy I'd ever met, but it just didn't click for him. Well, then a few years later, him and Jeff got together, and the rest is history. Now he won't return my phone calls, so that's okay. But most of my humor was kind of Southern humor. A lot of it was based on, being dirt poor. We were the off-white trash, that sort of thing. So it's been a long time since I did stand-up. So there really wasn't a particular joke that comes to mind. My ending routine was funny, and I'll have to tell you about that off camera.
Okay.
It was good.
I remember I think what I saw was like the cell phone in the bathroom. That was kind of funny, where the guy next to you in the stall.
That's a true story.
Was it?
True story. I'm in a stall. The guy next to me is like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, It's going all right. Yeah, what have you been up to?" Nothing. I'm sitting on the toilet, right? And finally he goes, "Hang on, guy. There's a guy in the stall next to me that keeps talking to me." So true story. Yeah.
And then you, I think as part of the joke, that was true. Mm-hmm. And then he said something to you, and you made it seem like you were also on the phone.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because I didn't want to seem too much like an idiot. I'm like, yeah, this guy in the stall next to me is talking. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so you live in a home. Mm-hmm. You sell a lot of homes. Mm-hmm. Some people talk about the concept of having a dream home and whether they're in their dream home. But just give me one element that you would add to your yard or your home that you're envious of, or like, man, I wish I had that in my house.
Well, let me tell you the story of how I got this house.
Okay.
I hope we have enough time. We lived in Hill Chase, which is here in Madison. We were 10 minutes away from my grandson Archer, right? We'd have to get in the car, drive for 10 minutes, boom. We're at breakfast one morning, and Ammon, my son-in-law, holds up his phone, and he says, did you see this house down the street? There's a house for sale down the street from my grandkids. Finish your breakfast.
We're going by.
Let's go.
Right.
We literally went there, and I bought it. And my wife hated it because it was just, the layout was bad. And we're walking through it. And she's like, "I hate this." I'm like, "Don't worry. We'll fix it." "Well, I hate this." "Don't worry. We'll fix it."
Yeah.
The boys, 5 doors down. And so we ended up buying this house, gutting it. Like, I don't remember how much money we put into it, but we literally made it our dream home. Right.
Okay.
But we had to redo every inch of the house. The front yard, we had these sweet gum trees. They dropped these little spiky balls. My wife, we cut down all the trees. Mm-hmm. We resodded. We've literally done everything to this house, but I can walk out on my front porch and see my grandsons. So that's kind of the big thing with us. And we've made it pretty much the perfect house.
So there's nothing really that's lacking.
There really isn't. And here's the rest of that story. Okay, Chelsea and the boys live here. Yeah. We live 5 doors down. Chelsea's mother, my ex-wife, buys the house across the street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Luckily, we all get along very well. But it's just really, it's so cool because I see those boys every day.
Yeah.
And Archer, he wants to go to Bumpa's house. I'm Bumpa.
Bumpa,
yeah. I started off as Grandpa. But
I've never heard that, Bumpa.
But that's Archer made it up. Yeah, I was. I don't like Grandpa or Pop and all this kind. I'm like, they'd say, "What do you want your grandkids to call you?" Mr. Knox is fine. So I don't remember who came up with Grandpa. It had to do with being grumpy. Well, Archer couldn't say that, so I became Bumpa, and that's what I will always be.
This is not one of the questions, but have you ever been? Is Timothy's your given full name?
Yeah, Timothy Wayne.
And has anyone ever called you Timmy or Little Tim?
Only my whole family growing up.
Okay.
Yeah, and my cousins, when I see them today, "Hey, Timmy." My sister calls me Timmy Wayne. And I'm like, "Pat, my name is Tim." "Okay, Timmy Wayne." So, yeah.
What's the, all right, last question. Mm-hmm. And I think I just love food questions. and part of it's, I'm not going to ask you the ice cream question.
Okay.
Burgers. You like burgers?
I am a burgerholic.
Where should I go? What is your recommendation for a burger in Greater Huntsville?
Oh God, what is it? Farm Burger?
Farm Burger.
The best. Absolutely the best hamburger in Huntsville.
Okay.
Farm Burger. Is it the Borson Burger? I don't remember what it is, but there's a burger with cheese and grilled onions, and oh my God, it's good.
Okay.
Really good. Connors has a good burger. They're the ones that there's a Borson filet. It's a filet with Borson cheese on it. They actually make that into a hamburger.
Okay.
It's pretty darn good.
I do like
too.
Connors.
Yeah.
I go there a lot.
Big fan of Connors. But yeah, Farm Burger, And then again, I just like Five Guys.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Five Guys. I wanted to buy a Five Guys franchise just so I could eat free. They're sold out.
Oh, really? There's
Yeah.
none available?
None available.
I heard it's extremely difficult to get it to be like a Chick-fil-A franchise.
It's impossible. We tried that too. To be a Chick-fil-A franchisor, I think you have to work for the company for a while, and their model is a little different because you don't buy a franchise. You buy the right to run a franchise. And yeah, we wanted to put one on south side of Madison, and they were not interested. They're very picky. They like to find people that have been with the company for a while and promote them up. But it would be a great franchise to have.
Yeah, they just kill, don't they?
They do, and I don't understand why. I'm a Popeyes guy.
Yeah, I don't mind Chick-fil-A. I don't understand the fervor. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. Have you tried Popeyes chicken sandwich?
Oh yeah. It's the best.
That's the best. Yeah.
There's none better.
Right.
Yeah, we during the pandemic when I was working up in DC, we were doing lunch a lot. We didn't have employees doing training because there was nowhere to go and get trained, right? So then it turned online. Well, with all the oversupply of online training, well, it ended up being free.
Right.
So we weren't really spending our indirect money that much on what we would normally spend. So we bought a lot of food, and it started with Popeyes chicken sandwiches. Oh. And you say that, and people really perk up. You're getting Popeyes chicken sandwiches? Like, really? And then, unfortunately, there was people, getting like hurt over that. There was fights breaking out, right? For the last Popeye sandwich or shot, for heaven's sakes. Goodness, man.
Yeah. Have you had Slim Chickens?
Not yet.
It's good.
Is it?
Get the chicken fingers. They're delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a line there, too.
Always, yeah.
Have you, so actually, let me go back to the stand-up. Sure. How the heck do you start doing openings for these comedians? Like, these aren't just comedians. These are, the best of the best. Yeah.
Well, it's really funny because I was working mornings at WTAK, and every Wednesday night we would do a TAK night at the comedy club here. Mm-hmm. And I started hosting that just because I was on the morning show. And, you just come up with some silly jokes that you heard. And I just kind of had a knack for it. So I'm like, okay, let me just kind of write some jokes. So I wrote probably 10, 15 minutes worth of material. And the same night, the Wednesday night was amateur night. Anybody could go up and do 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I could go up and do 5 minutes and just kill. I just had, I was a morning guy. I've always been funny. I just had some funny stuff. Mm-hmm. And the owner of the club approached me one night. He goes, "What you want to be our host?" I'm like, "What's that mean?" And so for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night shows, I was the host. I made a whole $5 an hour, but I got free drinks.
Nice.
I did well.
Yeah,
that's right. But that's what got me started. And then my 15 minutes, I wrote 30 minutes. And so the comedy club owner is kind of a cheap guy. Rather than book there are 3 slots typically on a comedy show. There's the opener, mm-hmm. there's the middle, and the headliner.
Right.
And the opener gets paid drinks. The middle might make a few $100. The headliner, depending on who they are, makes a lot of money.
Right.
And so because I could do 30 minutes, rather than bring in a comedian that he would have to pay money to, he would let me open for these guys. So we had Foxworthy coming through, like I said, Gallagher.
Did you have Bill Engvall?
Bill Engvall never came through Huntsville. I don't know why. But that was really it. And then he got me gigs in Nashville. He got me gigs in Birmingham. And I would just go up and I had a good 30 minutes. And that's what really, I kind of, typically a comedian, it takes you years to get there. Again, right place, right time.
Yeah.
There was nothing special about me. I was just this funny redneck guy that, people liked, and I would work for nothing.
What about Larry the Cable Guy?
I never worked with Larry. Was not out back then.
Gotcha.
Like I said, Jeff Foxworthy, he was doing the, you might be a redneck stuff, but he was just doing clubs. He wasn't on TV that much. He was nationally known, but it wasn't until really that Blue Collar Comedy Tour. That's what put Jeff and Larry and Bill and Ron White on the map.
Yeah.
But but like I said, right at the time, Jeff was making a good living.
I remember Comic Strip Live.
Yeah.
In like the late 80s, early 90s. And I still can, because I put the VHS tape in and we'd record it. And I can still, I still remember some very classic routines.
Oh, yeah.
And I could probably, recite it for you.
Well, this was at a time when there were all these comedy shows on TV. Comedy Central had just launched. And so you were seeing a lot of comedians on HBO, Showtime, and comedy clubs across the nation just took off.
Yeah.
And I mean, people were doing, even here they were doing comedy night at like the Coffee Clutch, and that sort of thing. So everybody wanted to be a comedian. There were a lot of clubs to play back then. So again, it's just right place, right time. But I got to tell you, that is the most grueling job on the planet. I have such respect for guys who stick with, like Jeff.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't always Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck. He busted his ass in clubs for years.
Sure.
Same way with Ron.
Yeah.
Ron was literally thinking about getting out of the business.
Yeah.
There is no tougher thing to go up in front of a crowd of people, tell a joke, and have them look at you like you're, like a dog watching the ceiling fan.
Yeah. Or I've often thought just how difficult it is to audition where there is no audience.
Yeah.
And you might have just 2 or 3 judges like, hey, go ahead.
Yeah.
And, how do you, because you need an audience sometimes to feed off, right, as a comedian.
Well, you do. And most comedians, they work out their material in the clubs.
Yeah.
Even like, the best of the best is Jerry Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, but it's his living and his passion. To this day, Jerry Seinfeld leaves his mansion, goes to an office, and writes jokes all day long.
Right.
Just
loves it.
Who else? And he is the absolute best. But there's becoming successful in that business, that you truly are the 1%.
Sure.
Because I know guys now that they just won't give it up. They've been doing clubs for 15, 20 years. They might be making, $300-400 a week, but they just can't give it up.
Yeah.
And with me, it was relatively easy to step out of it because my daughter Chelsea was young. I wasn't making any money. It was one of those periods where, I need to get up and pull up my big boy pants and go find a business. And that's one of the things that really got me out of it. It's really funny. My wife and I were talking the other night about if I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it be? Because she knows my propensity to, when it stops being fun, I got to do something else.
Yeah.
I told her if I could do this, if I could do my Dr. Johnny Fever radio show and make a living, I'd go do it.
So I was just going to ask you this question. Why is there no middle class in a way? Like you either starving, as you were saying.
Sure seems like, yeah.
It's intern based at a lot of stations, right? Or you're kind of cutting your teeth. And then on the other side, these people are making mega millions on whatever national program. And there doesn't seem to be an in-between.
Well, it has to do with the market size. Most most radio and TV people start out in a small market.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Alabama and you get a degree in journalism, unless you're really amazing, you're going to come to some smaller town. You're going to come to Huntsville. Huntsville is a small market, right? So a lot of people come here for radio and TV just as a stepping stone to move elsewhere. Because, for example, in radio, I never made more than $5 an hour. Now, granted, that was a long time ago, but the only way that you improve is you get good and you go to a larger market. Sean Hannity started right here.
Did he really?
He was on the same little AM talk station. When Sean left, I filled his slot for a while. But nobody knew Sean. He was not a national icon that he is now. He started here at WVNN, doing the afternoons, really built up a platform. And I think he left here and went to Atlanta. And from Atlanta, very quickly went to New York. Sean just had the knack.
Yeah.
Right. He was the exception to the rule. But, even if you go to...
But there's only so many big markets.
Well,
that's the other thing,
well,
right?
there are. You've got New York, Chicago, Atlanta's good.
Sure.
Morning men in those big markets or morning women can make a pretty good living.
Yeah.
You can make a couple $100,000 easily, doing that. And then, if you get on a national level, like a Stern but even Stern, if a lot of people don't like him. I think he's amazing.
He's a great interviewer.
There's no better interviewer.
Yeah.
But this is a guy that's paid his dues for 40 years. And he talks about starting off at a little, radio station in some guy's house in Hartford and this sort of thing. But again, a lot of it has to do with staying with it.
Yeah.
I think if I had stuck it out in radio, I'd have probably ended up in a middle market maybe. I don't think I was good enough to do anything major. If I'd stuck with comedy, I'd have probably worked up to headliner. I just wasn't willing to pay those dues.
Yeah.
I didn't want it bad enough, honestly.
Now,
I did it because it was fun.
Have you thought about an HGTV type, like flip home episode and kind of still going to do like the television series route?
Well, what's funny is my daughter, Chelsea, and her husband Ammon actually did a pilot for HGTV 5 or 6 years ago.
Really?
And it was called Fixin' to Flip. And
I like that. So we're fixing to flip it.
Very Southern.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really great. They did the pilot episode. The deal was, though, in order to get a flipping show, you have to have multiple houses going. You have to have multiple crews because typically you start and finish one house in an hour, right? So if they had gotten picked up, they would have had to have 13 houses going at once. Thank God they didn't get it because then I wouldn't have these grandsons. I'm very selfish about that.
Yeah.
But the good news is I can do my own thing on YouTube, and I don't have to worry about that because it is a grind.
Yeah.
But that's the nice. I mean, years ago we wouldn't be sitting here. If
That's
you were going to
true.
do this kind of thing, you had to be at a radio station.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, my little flip videos, my little before and afters, they're my little mini HGTVs.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. What Stern does is no different than what we're doing.
Not at
I'm
all.
interviewing you. The difference is he's interviewing A-list celebrities, right? Not to diminish
Right.
Tim Knox, but
I know.
but it's really he's interviewing, right?
Yeah.
And then of course there's a radio aspect as well, right? But that's what gets the most clips.
Yeah.
It's just and it just happens to be called a podcast.
Well, I mean, and it's really funny. Stern really belittles podcasts.
Yeah.
And, he's like, oh, this guy, like Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
who's probably the most successful podcaster on the planet. Stern's like, yeah, but it's a podcast. I mean, the guy got like $36 million, right? It's a podcast.
100 million.
Yeah, it was 100 million. Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, we can do this and we can build our own audience.
Yeah.
It may be that only folks in Huntsville see these videos, or it may be national. And, I think we have an opportunity. I mean, someone could see these podcasts and go, wow, we need to give these guys a bigger platform.
Yeah.
And it's happened. I've seen it happen to friends.
It's interesting when people will say there's always the debate on how long your episode should be.
Yeah.
Now, number one, my style is to talk, and it's going to take an hour and a half really to get through where I feel like I gave a shot at getting to know Tim Knox as good as I can for a first episode. Joe talks 3 hours every episode.
Yeah.
So it obviously he has 3.1 million subscribers and then some. So it seems to be working.
Yeah.
Not everybody checks out the full 3 hours, but there has to be something to be said for the talent of talking nonstop for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Where Stern, he's on Sirius XM, but I think they do other things than just that one guest.
They do, yeah.
So I think there is a talent that Joe has to be able to, if you look at the variety of guests.
That's a good point, because if you look at Joe Rogan's guest list, you're not going to recognize most of the people.
No.
I mean, he interviews celebrities here and there, but most of his folks and I saw him do this in an interview. He interviews people that interest him.
Yeah.
Because he feels like if it interests me, it probably interests more people. And I would always watch Joe Rogan, and I wouldn't even know who the guest was.
Sure.
They're talking about some off-the-wall science thing, and you're just kind of wrapped there. You watch it.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing is technology gives everybody a platform.
Yep.
Even people that shouldn't have one. And you just never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
But again, Joe Rogan's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
He is not an overnight success by any stretch.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any final thoughts from you, Tim? As we
No, not really. I appreciate you letting me do this. I eat this stuff up, and I have to come back, by the way.
Oh, you're going to come back.
But I appreciate what you're trying to do. I really think with our area, programs like yours are very important, because you're introducing people to people that are here, and you're not just interviewing celebrities and mayors and this sort of thing that a lot of folks want. And that's one of the things that I found, in my videos, people just like everyday stuff. And so, kudos to you.
Well, thanks. And even if I was to have a political candidate on, it wouldn't really be about diving into the politics.
Right.
No. I want that person, because probably all they ever do is stump this, their platform over and over. No. I want to step back and let's give, in this case, if it's politics, the voter an opportunity to learn more about this person for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They used to fish. They used to,
Who are they?
eat their boogers or something. They're like, whoa. And or for you, right? You're a YouTube, and it's all focused on Revolved Realty. But boy, there's a lot to Tim. And actually, before we even close, tell me more about the book. It was everything I learned about business I learned from my mama or something?
Yeah. Again, just kind of a ripoff of Jeff Foxworthy. But no, I had one of my talents had always been a writer. I mentioned that I could draw. I would write, do my own comics. Well, I used to write my own little stories. And my mother, before she passed away, if you went over to her house, she was going to pull out something that I wrote when I was 8 and show to you. So I'd always been a writer, and I got into, I don't remember how I got it, but I was writing for Entrepreneur magazine, and I was their small business startup expert for a couple of years. And basically, I would write a column once a month, and they'd pay me, $100 or whatever. So I had been doing that for a while, and I had all of these columns, and mine were a little different. Mine were business advice, small business advice with humor. And I would always bring some funny story into it and teach a lesson on whatever.
Yeah. And
so I decided that I wanted my own newspaper column. Remember newspapers?
Yeah, of course.
They were big. You open them up. You swat flies with them. I decided I wanted a newspaper column because I thought it would really make my mama happy to open up the Sunday paper and see my ugly mug there. That was my motivation. And so I went online and I found out who was the business editor for the Huntsville Times. It was Shelley Haskins. Called him up and I said, hey, man, I'm a local entrepreneur. I've been writing for Entrepreneur magazine for a long time. I've got these articles. I think they'd probably make a really good newspaper column. What do you think? And he said, well, send me some. He didn't know me from Adam. Called me back, I think the next day and said, we really like this. We want to do a column with you every Sunday. You'll be front page of the business section. I'm like, okay, cool. And he said, well, we can't let you do it for free because that would be advertising. And I'm like, you're going to pay me? You're going to pay me money?
Yeah.
$75. So for several years, every Sunday, there was my ugly mug on the front of the business section of Huntsville Times. So I'd written a ton of columns. And so one day I'm like, you know what? I'd like to write a book. I got all this content. Wonder what I can do with it. And so same kind of thing. I knew I needed a manager. I went online. I found this guy who managed a lot of business authors, sent him a proposal. And basically what we did is we took some of the old columns and kind of repackaged them into this book called Everything I Know About Business I Learned from My Mama, a down-home Southern humor lesson about business, blah, blah, blah. And sold it to Wiley & Sons, got a nice check for it. It did fairly well. It was on number one on Amazon for a couple of months. And then as books do, it just kind of did this. I have boxes of them if you'd like a box.
Not just a book. I get a box of books.
You got to take a box, dude. You
I'll
can't
take
just
one.
have a book. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like when I grew up. I mean, nobody's going to hand you a damn thing. If you want something, figure it out, make a plan, go get it. And that's literally how the book came about.
Did you tell your mom you're going to be front page of the business section?
I didn't. And she thought that was just the
So
greatest
she stumbled
thing.
upon it on her own?
Yeah. I took the paper. I was there and she was looking through the paper and I said, hey, Mom, do you read the business section? No. Why would I read the business section? I'm like, well, you might want to today because, your son's on. Yeah, and she just thought that was the coolest thing. She loved the fact that the book was dedicated to her. But here's a little tidbit for you. On the cover of the book is a woman holding a baby.
Okay.
I'm the baby. The woman holding me is not my mother. It is my aunt.
Wow.
Because my mom, we had no pictures of my mother holding any of her kids.
Oh, wow.
You got to remember, this was 60 years ago.
Oh, sure.
Right. And,
Yeah.
everybody didn't have cell phones. But, yeah, the only picture that existed of me with a female was my Aunt Rilla holding me. We could do a whole show on this lady. But, yeah, and my mom was so funny because I brought her to a book signing. And she's sitting there at the table, and people are bringing up books to sign. And this lady said, well, Ms. Knox, will you sign my book? And my mother goes, oh, hon, that's a brand new book. You don't want me to write in that. So that was my mom.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Hey, man, you bet. You bet.
All right, Tim. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Like you
Appreciate
said,
you having me.
I definitely want you on again.
Well, now that I know where you live, try to keep me off.
Yeah. And you never walked through this home though, right?
No, this is one house in this neighborhood I didn't sell.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that when you came in, and maybe what you thought, like you shouldn't have bought this house.
No, nice. This is a great area, great house. It's probably doubled in value since you bought it.
Probably. Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
All the best.